Wednesday, February 27th, 3 p.m. Mountain Time, 2019. Guys, in this video, we're going to take a look at some weather phenomenon today. I've also got some incredible sky phenomenon pictures that you guys have shared with me, and video. An exceptional video of the high winds out in the east part of the United States, up in upstate New York, Buffalo, New York. Here we're looking at the west coast of the United States, where they're dealing with weather phenomenon. Flooding in the last 72 hours. There's a map here of this area from the National Weather Service out of Sacramento, and you can see there have been some exceptional rainfall totals. Whiskeytown Lake, 23.4 inches. Shasta Dam, 15.3, and that's not snow, that's rain. So all of these rivers and tributaries through here are going to be pushed to the max, or at least a big majority of them. Redding Fire Station, 6.4 inches of rain. Chico, 4.4. Paradise, 11 inches. And I think there was another area that saw 13 inches of rain right here. Cobb Mountain, 13 inches of rain. So all of these rivers and tributaries through here are carrying a lot of water. All of this area, you see some form of weather alert, whether it be thunderstorm warning or watch, flood warning or watch, winter storm warning or watch. The Sierra Nevadas have seen multiple feet of snow, which is not uncommon for that area, up near Truckee, Lake Tahoe. That's quite common, in fact. But this year, it's been very exceptional. They just saw 9 feet of snow in some places. It was almost impossible to measure. Unlike rain, you can go out and look at the rain gauge. Snow, you have to physically go out and measure it, and sometimes the stick isn't long enough, or they can't get to an area to even measure the snow. And that's been the case in some of these areas up there. There's been so much snow, and the winds have been so high, in excess of 100 miles per hour up in the Sierra Nevadas. And again, that's not necessarily uncommon. It has happened before, but the amount of snow that they're getting right now is quite exceptional. More feet of snow associated with this round of rain and snow in the elevations. We're going to take a look at the river gauges right now, where for the first time, at least for me, we're looking at the purples are major flood stage, and we're seeing that from coast to coast. Out here in California, where I just showed you where they're getting all that rain, these rivers are going to be pushed to the max. Red is moderate flood stage, purple is major flood stage. And you can see in that area what I was talking about. Those rivers and tributaries are going to be pushed to the limits. The reservoirs are going to fill up, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we just don't need too much at one time. Look at the East Coast. Reds, even the orange, are approaching some form of flood stage. It's minor flood stage now, but that could turn into a moderate or to a major event rather quickly if they get more rain. The Midwest and the Mississippi and Ohio River valleys, northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, southern Illinois. This entire area is dealing with a lot of water right now, a lot of water. Up here in upstate New York, the high winds and the ice phenomenon I'm still getting pictures in from, and video, the high winds up here. We talked about this storm and this stationary jet stream that was pretty much in place for over a week that brought all this rain. That's why we see these river gauges in flood stage right now. Well, there was another system that brought through these exceptionally high winds that people that have lived up here off of eastern Lake Erie their entire lives have never seen anything quite like what they saw. Much like the storm I'm going to talk about here in a minute that occurred out in the Pacific Ocean. Something occurred that has never occurred before in recorded history. This was sent in by Michael P. from Cheektowaga, New York. This was during the high winds back on the 24th. And you can see it blew over a power pole. Sparks were flying through the air. And look at the home in front of it. The power didn't go completely out, but it was flickering as sparks are flying through the air from high winds. Blew over a power pole. Just an unbelievable scenario. Blew ice out of Lake Erie up onto the shore. I've got more pictures of ice piled up on shore. But this situation here, they said, was handled very quickly. The crews got there and took care of this situation within an hour. So those guys were on the ball in New York. There was at one time, I think, nearly 1 million customers up here without power due to those high winds that we saw the other day. I want to share some more pictures of this ice that was pushed off of Lake Erie by these high winds. And here's a look at some of the ice piled up along the coast near Hamburg, New York. This was sent in by Mike J. You're going to see another exceptional photograph. Look at this. Ice pushed up into the backyards, to the back doors of these homes. Once again, Hamburg, New York, sent in by Mike. Look at that. It's like a tsunami of ice. Unbelievable. Look at this. This is over 2 stories tall. Young lady standing here in front of just huge ice boulders. Just unbelievable. Here's some pictures from the other side of the United States. This is over in Idaho. This was sent in by my friend Shiner from McCall, Idaho. Snow all the way up to the windows of their home. Got another picture from Idaho from Shiner. Look at this. They can't even see out this window. The snow is up to the overhang of the house. There has been a tremendous amount of snow in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, where they've seen almost 70 inches of snow this year. New record in Wisconsin. Oregon, there was a Amtrak stalled on the tracks for, 36 hours? Because a tree had fallen on the tracks because of so much snow on the tree. Just unbelievable. A lot of weather going on, especially in the northern hemisphere right now. I know there's been a lot going on with regard to records set in Australia, and we're going to talk about that in another video. But this right here, you're looking at the first time in, from what I understand, in recorded history, and after all, it is winter time in the northern hemisphere. We don't generally see typhoons or hurricanes in February, but you're looking at the remnant of what used to be a Cat 5 hurricane. Right here it is. When it was a Cat 5, I'm going to show you when this was a Cat 5 back on the 25th. Unbelievable. That's just unheard of, guys. A Cat 5 hurricane in February? No way. But it happened, okay? It happened. Let's zoom in and take a closer look. Purple, Category 5. Red, Category 4. Orange, Category 3, and so on. This is the path of the storm as it started out around the 160 east longitude and just above the equator at around 7-8 degrees north of the equator. Shouldn't be there. So you can see as it was moving to the west-northwest on the 23rd, it matured to a Cat 4. Went back down to a Cat 3, back up to a Cat 4 on the 24th, a Category 5 on the 25th. Briefly, but nevertheless, it made it to a Cat 5 on the 25th. Then down to a Cat 4, Cat 3, Cat 2, and now currently at a Category 1, reducing down to a tropical storm. But this is the location out in the Guam area. It's moving towards Asia, but it won't be an organized storm by the time it gets there. But that right there is a complete enigma. That shouldn't have happened. It's never happened that we know of. We don't see storms like this in the northern hemisphere above the equator in February. So that is a historic storm. Typhoon Wutip, February 25th, a Category 5 in 2019. Never before seen, guys. Simply incredible. Never seen anything like it. Major flooding coast to coast in different areas across the United States. Densely concentrated here in the Midwest. The Mississippi River is going to start to take on a lot of the water from these tributaries from the east and the west. That's just how it rolls. These tributaries feed the major arteries. The major arteries feed the mighty Mississippi. So look for the Mississippi to start flooding more and more into March and quite possibly even into April. It just depends on how long it takes to manage all of this water. Another story here associated with the high winds. Sugarloaf Mountain in Maine took down a huge telecommunications tower. These winds were just absolutely unbelievable. And there you can see that tower that stood for a long, long time. And this wasn't a tornado. These were winds, strong winds. There's also another cyclone right now east of Australia, but it shouldn't be a problem. The farther south these things go, the water is much too cool to ever sustain well, I shouldn't say ever, because we never see one like we just saw up here Tropical storm now, Wu Tip, which should not be there. That's an enigma, guys. That is very strange. This down here is quite common. We see them down in the southern hemisphere in our winter time. In the northern hemisphere, summertime in the southern hemisphere. So that's not unusual. But when those go directly south into the cooler waters, they just simply run out of gas. Just that simple. That there, complete enigma. Now I've got some pictures that are kind of an enigma, so to speak, like this one here sent in by Regani. I'm not exactly sure of the location, but get a load of that. Look at those shadows. Look like eyelashes in the sky. And there's probably 24 of them that we can see in this photograph, not counting the triangle-shaped cloud and the darker cloud or shadow behind it. Really unique photograph sent in by Regani. Thank you so much. Cool cloud here sent in by Rory from Longmont, Colorado. Look at that. I've got a close-up of it somewhere. I think it's right here. You can see why he took the picture. It's like a big Q-tip in the sky. Good observation, Rory. This was sent in by Max B from Mission Viejo, California. Looks like a helmet flying through the sky. A domed ship. Look at that. Some sort of a dark, very unusual cloud, caught his attention. That's why he took the photograph. It wasn't necessarily moving fast like a plane or anything, but just at a glance, it certainly looked like some sort of a craft, much like these clouds here that Iris saw in Las Vegas. And a lot of these pictures were taken on the 25th. The 25th was a very unique day for planet Earth. Look at these clouds. They too look like some sort of a ship in the sky. Even though they're just clouds, I get it, but when you just glance at those, you can see why the viewer, the observer, took the picture. They're very, very unique. And there was a long row of these that were connected together, and then they separated into individual clouds that look like little ships. This is the first photograph she sent me. I kind of showed them to you in reverse order, but this is the first photograph when they were kind of all connected, and then they kind of went independently. See that? Very unique observation by Iris out of Las Vegas. Cool photograph here sent in by Emily from Indiana. The sky looked like a big giant louvered window, gray louvered window at that. Photograph here sent in by E-Rock. I'm not exactly sure of the location. Nice pink sky there. Double rainbow also sent in by E-Rock. Been seeing a lot of those lately. We don't hardly ever see single rainbows anymore. They're all doubles. Whole bunch clouds sent in by Nick from Dearborn, Michigan. Look at that. I think there was another one right there, and there's also, well, if you look really close, right there, there's what appears to be a possible triangle, but I think it's just the nature of the clouds. This here is a unique photograph sent in from Sarasota, Florida by J. Law. Sky divided in half. You got a bright orange on the left and completely gray on the right. Perfectly divided line right in the middle of the sky. Unbelievable. Big, huge anti-crepuscular ray. That's looking east at sunset as the sun is setting in the west. Not exactly sure of the location, but that was sent in by Sonia B. Thank you, Sonia, for sharing. Great picture. This is also an awesome photograph sent in by Pat H. Look at that cloud hovering over that highway. And these people are getting ready to drive underneath it. It looks like a big vacuum cleaner up in the sky. Incredible. We're going to see a lot more of that type of stuff, guys, during this solar minimum. It's going to be very interesting what the weather is going to do, what it's already doing. It's already quite interesting, much like I said, this here was just completely out of bounds. Are you serious? A Cat 5 typhoon above the equator in February? Never seen that before. Much like an exclamation point in the sky. Just a fun photograph here sent in by Melanie from Apple Valley, California. She was driving down the road and looked up, saw an exclamation point in the sky. Even got a shadow behind the dot on the bottom and a shadow behind the upper part of the exclamation mark. Just unreal. It doesn't even look real, but it is. Thank you, Melanie, for sharing. Greatly appreciate it. Look at this cloud. Talk about an exclamation point. It deserves one. Look at that. Sent in by Crystal from Farmington, Missouri. This photograph goes back to October. I just found this today in my files. In fact, there was some emails that I discovered today that, I'm going to be honest with you, I hadn't seen yet. And this was one of the incredible photographs that was in those emails. And I found some other photographs. So, guys, when I say I'm going through the emails, I really am. So I'm going back many, many months to try to retrieve as many emails as I can because I do greatly appreciate it. Look at that cloud from Farmington, Missouri. Thank you, Crystal. Greatly appreciate it. This was sent in by Brian from Norman, Oklahoma. And he took a picture of the sun and what looked like a partial halo in the sky. And he noticed in the photograph something was almost in the way of the sun. It was obstructing the sun. Look at that. Straight line, and you can see what looks like a dent. He didn't notice it, obviously, because it was too bright. You don't ever look at the sun without proper eye protection. But look at how that photograph turned out. He didn't see anything, obviously. It was too bright. But it almost looks like something transparent, but yet it had enough energy to block out the sunlight in this photograph. And it's got a perfectly straight line. You can't really tell going this direction, but up here you can definitely see. There's no doubt about it. And it goes right into the 9 o'clock position of the sun. Super interesting photograph. Thank you, Brian, for sharing. We're going to end up with another photograph from Pat H. I'm not exactly sure of the location, but unbelievable. I don't know if that's a sunrise or a sunset. Either way, it's absolutely spectacular. Thanks for watching. Have a super day, and be safe out there, guys.